Welcome to the Oral Wealth Prosperity and Practice podcast with with Dr. Jackson Sadler and myself, Brian Swilling. You're having trouble talking this morning.
I was going to say, just like usual, we're off and running without a hitch.
Yeah. Early. So we're glad to have you here today. We're going to talk about mastering high income for true wealth. Or the dark side of high income.
Yeah, just all the stuff that gets missed when you're so in your excitement of finally making some money and being able to live and go on with your life and your career. These are like kind of like you said, the dark side, like the shadowy pitfalls that we don't really notice until they're on us or we're already into them.
Yeah, and in this podcast, just to remind listeners, we help dental professionals and healthcare pros overcome financial stress, find fulfillment, both personally and professionally. And as we're going to get into today's topic, we'll start with why high income can be a trap. And what I found is many high income earners in dentistry find themselves in a good position. Right. They make a decent amount of income. They have a good career. But sometimes they're struggling or feel overwhelmed with many things, family obligations, their student loan debt, pressure to keep up with lifestyle of other dentists.
The Joneses.
Yeah. Keep up with the Joneses, or the doctors, and also it's a demanding career. So it also can create burnout, whether you're associate or even more common as a practice owner.
Yeah. That'll burn you out quick.
Yeah.
Doing all this work and then not being able to enjoy your money.
Yeah. And it's not just about money. It's about making money work
for you.
To create the life, that ideal life. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing is like, they don't have what are my values around life and money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that briefly here. Jackson, any kind of thoughts on that as we get started?
No, I'm excited to get in and talk to you about this. I mean, it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing, and kind of to go along with the theme of it being the dark side of having a high income. It's a thing that I think it's a problem that is allowed to progress kind of in the shadows because, like we've mentioned before, people aren't really comfortable or used to talking about their finances. They're not used to talking about mistakes they've made with finances. So, you start making all this money or what you feel like is a lot of money or is a significant amount of money. And all of a sudden you're still stressed out. You're doing all the things. You got the new car, you got the country club membership, you got
checking
the
house.
Boxes. Yeah, you're checking all the boxes, but it's just making you work harder and stressing you out more. It's not really your money working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we'll go into, like the first kind of point. And this is like the stealthy threat of lifestyle creep. So it's either lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation is when our spending increases right along with a rising income, right? And it's funny, as a dental student, you're perfectly happy living on barely any money. Well, you figure out how to make it. You figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people spend more than they should be. Even then,
credit card debt starts in college. Usually.
Yes, yeah.
But you figured out how to use it. But also, it's that delayed satisfaction of going to dental school, right? You're like, oh, my friends are out having good jobs. Already, getting the things they've always wanted. But like you start making more and you start justifying, more expensive habits, a bigger house, luxury car, high-end dining, nicer vacations. Mm-hmm. But the problem isn't really income, and all the research shows the problem is the savings rate doesn't often keep up with that increase in income.
Right.
And from my perspective, it's not really like when people think savings, they think retirement savings.
Mm-hmm.
I think of savings as more financial independence,
right,
from the grind.
Right. How long could you live without working if you had to go without working?
Exactly. So, especially a younger age, retirement is important, and I don't want to discount it, but I think people discount saving outside of retirement.
Absolutely. I was looking at something about emergency funds the other day, and how, it was something ridiculous. I can't remember the statistic, but it was like 70% of Americans or something couldn't afford an emergency if it would like cost like $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think people tend to see saving kind of as one dimensional. They say, "Oh yeah, of course I'm saving for my future," and you go, "How?" And they're like, I'm putting money over here. It's like, well, there are multiple ways to do this. There's multiple strategies that we should be looking into.
Yeah. I mean, and it's very complicated and nuanced, and depending on the personality and who you're talking to. But like in general, like, and I keep saying like, in general, I recommend people save, like, get the emergency fund, which is usually 3 to 6 months in cash. And cash is a dead asset, or it does not earn enough interest to keep up. Yeah, depreciating asset to keep up with inflation. Mm-hmm. So you don't want. I usually say 3 months, and then all that excess cash start saving in a non-retirement account, usually a taxable account,
right?
High yield savings. Brokerage, or a brokerage, like a brokerage account, and start saving in retirement. But you start with the base. But what most people, we are here to talk about the income part, the saving, that usually doesn't happen, right? And it happens for most people unconsciously. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is, you're earning a lot, but not necessarily building wealth. And your wealth, in quotes, is what we're talking about here. Just having that cushion to not be stuck in a job you don't like, not feeling like you constantly have to put in extra work to keep up with the lifestyle. So that's like, wealth is whatever your ideal life is.
So what are some ways you would mitigate that issue of people having trouble with saving?
Yeah. So, the easiest way is pay yourself first. Mm-hmm. So automate your savings. And I think this is a non-negotiable, but it's really hard for people to get off the treadmill of spending to start doing it.
Once you start doing it, though, you don't even notice it's gone.
Yes.
Yeah. I invest monthly. It just comes straight out of my paycheck, and I never think about it.
And your lifestyle hasn't adjusted at all.
No.
And that's the secret. I've seen that over and over and over again. So, before you even see it, like, have a portion of your paycheck go directly into savings or investment account. And that's really the golden rules. Pay yourself first. And what I do is kind of a good rule of thumb there is, whatever amount you think is comfortable, that's way too low.
Yeah, I was going to say double it.
Yeah. Like double it, because you can change it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, if you start noticing that you're digging into emergency funds, or, your checking account is dwindling to an uncomfortable level, then adjust it, but double it, triple it. See how it works for a couple months.
That is very interesting to me, that people seem more concerned about oversaving than overspending.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you could always put more money into your savings. And then if you're like, oh, I don't have enough to cover all of my stuff, or, this is really impacting my lifestyle in a way that I'm not okay with, that's fine. You can reverse it. Like, the money is still there and has probably gained some interest for you.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of, like, that's why I overemphasize the non-retirement stuff, the brokerage, because you can get that out with no penalties. That, and I say don't, and it's hard to, we've talked about this, on the other costs, but it's hard to picture your future self. So thinking about retirement, especially at a young age, starting to earn income is hard. Sometimes you need to pull that, sometimes it's easier to think about what's the next year Jackson going to look like, or, 2 years out or 5 years out. 5 years out, Jackson might not even really be worried about retirement at that point, but he might want to have financial cushion.
Jackson at all points in every stage knows he's going to need money, and it's probably better to have more of it than it is to question if I have enough.
Well, so that's probably why we're doing this podcast, because the Jackson knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, because Jackson needs to learn.
Yeah, and just quote one research study that the National Bureau of Economic Research, in the study, the consumption response to income changes, and we can put the link in the show notes, indicates a significant portion of income gains for high earners often goes into increased consumption rather than savings, limiting true wealth accumulation. Another example is in a 2018 survey by Credit Karma found that nearly 60% of Americans with six-figure incomes still live paycheck to paycheck.
That's wild. 60%.
A clear sign of lifestyle creep. And I see it on a daily basis. So that when you see it as a percentage, it's a lot. But when you see it every day, and we all fall into it. I honestly fall into lifestyle creep too. And I've thought about, I've talked about this recently, like I need to hire my own financial planner. I keep pushing it off because I need an accountability partner. Like I know it, but my own, I put everybody put blinders on their own life. So I just need somebody else to tell me what I already know. And that's a lot of people's case. So saving first, other strategies, you can just, if there's a big purchase that you're making, just take 24, 72 hours. Think about whether that fits your goals.
The plan.
Yeah. You don't have to be as structured as a pros and cons, but my wife would definitely make my kids do you really want to do it? Actually write out your pros and cons.
Yeah.
But it's just pause and think about, does that align with your long-term goals? Or is it just keeping up with a perceived image? And is that perceived image really what's going to make you happy? So just take the time to think about it. Because small, consistent decisions and deciding not to spend it adds up in the big time, especially if the first thing is automated your savings, right?
That reminds me of something I read in a book one time. The author was basically essentially saying the same thing. It's not that we're telling you not to spend your money, or we're telling you that you're doing a bad job managing your money. It's that we want you to enjoy the money that you've made and to benefit from it. And the best way to do that sometimes is to cut out the superfluous or the extra spending, right? So like I'm going to use this as an example because it's the first thing that comes to mind, but if you get up and you go get coffee every single morning, and I won't say any chains, but like you buy a $8, $9, $10 coffee every single morning, and you do that every single day that you go to work, assuming you have like a regular work schedule, it's 250, 60, 70 something days a year that you're doing this, and that's $10 each time. If you really enjoy that coffee, then spend the money on it. If that's the thing that like gets you out of bed and it gets your day going and it makes you feel better, then absolutely, that's what you should spend that money on. But if it's just a habit and now it's an expensive habit, could you make coffee at home?
Yeah.
I mean, there are other options.
Yeah. And in that, coffee, I think is the default, but that kind of goes to anything we spend. I bet everybody listening, including me and you, have subscriptions we've like signed up for that we don't really remember. And apps like Rocket Money were created to like highlight that.
And I got a subscription for Rocket Money.
Yeah. And well, quote, yeah. So sponsor Rocket Money if you hear this.
That's funny.
We'll take some sponsorship. So this goes to the next point is regular financial check-in, right? Just like you monitor patient health, regularly review bank statements and budgets, know where your money's going. Apps like Rocket Money, Mint, or YNAB are good apps to track all that.
I use that one for a while. You need a budget.
Yep. I've tested out all these. It's really a preference thing. Whichever one you like better. I think all of them have it now, but the highlighting the subscriptions that you might not be aware of is a huge thing. Not to get on too far of a tangent, but the one subscription thing I keep seeing over and over again is everybody cut the cord and got rid of cable.
Yeah. And they just bought all these other subscriptions instead. And
I'm like, I was talking about this the other day. I probably spend more now on all the subscriptions and getting rid of commercials than I did originally on cable.
Yeah. What's going to happen is all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 years, 5 years from now, somebody's going to have the brilliant idea. Why don't we just bundle them all? It's going to be cable all over again. It's going to be cable all over again. So, just one quick story on that. And then Jackson will talk about point 2. Is I've seen it over and over again, whether you're earning, you're, a dental student or a business owner, earning anywhere, a dental associate or a practice owner or just a regular business owner, you're earning anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000. And early on, things are good, right? You're like making a decent amount of money. But as you go up into the higher and higher income, and even, I have dentists like you're probably very familiar with earning close to $1 million, or specialists. Like I have general dentists earning close to $1 million. Specialists, are more likely to earn in that income. But on paper, everybody thinks, oh man, this guy's doing great. But every time income went up, so did the car payment, the size of his home, his vacation budget. And they always come to me stressed, like just as stressed as when they made like half the amount. And it's as simple as we just implemented an automatic savings plan. We didn't even talk about budget, because that's a hard subject. Like, I don't want to get into telling you how to spend your money. I want you to know what you're working towards, but I don't want to tell you how to spend it. You decide how to spend it. But just by saying save more than you think you'll be comfortable saving, and we'll look at it. And within 2 years, massive sense of relief. He had that financial cushion, and I've done this over and over and over again. Financial cushion, more control over life and goals. And it was just such a, it's coming in and saying everything is good, is the best thing I can do. And it feels like, oh, well, my job's done, but it's not, right? Because it's constant check-ins, it's constant accountability. Of course, yeah.
There's always something new. And I'm not, and that doesn't mean I say no to everybody. Like literally I said yes to everything they were doing, but I said, anytime you have a big decision, financial decision, don't be afraid to come talk to me. I'm not automatically going to be no.
Yeah.
I'm like, just remind you, does this align with your goals?
That's a good point. There probably is a perception a lot of people have of financial advisor. They're just going to tell me I'm doing a bad job and not spend my money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not the point. Just, does it align with your goals? Is it something that's going to bring you happiness? Is it something that you're comfortable with the risks? If you check all those boxes, like I don't have to agree with your decision making, but if you've rationalized it, and it's really hard to do that on your own, unless you're actively talking to your partner or other mentor or somebody about it, it's really hard to do. So that's going on to the next thing is conquering student loan, the student loan mountain. or debt. And I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, but talk about this in connection with the high income part.
Well, I mean, I think just as it relates specifically to earning a high income, it's anybody listening who has, student loan debt from undergrad or from graduate school knows it's an annoyance, right? You delayed your gratification for so long, getting through school, you finally have a job, you're finally making a paycheck. You get that first big pay, that first good big paycheck. We'll say, we'll be conservative here. We'll say it's, you get a $10,000 paycheck for your first one. So that's after taxes. So like you're going home with 10 grand to spend on whatever you want. And then, you're planning out your month. You're like, oh, I'm going to go on this trip. I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy that thing I've been needing. And then all of a sudden your student loan email comes through and they tell you, oh, well, now you have income driven repayment. So you owe us, $3,000, $4,000 of that paycheck. So, I mean, it definitely puts a damper on things, especially when at this point, unless you come from a family that has money, it's pretty much a necessity.
Yeah.
You can't really like work your way through school and pay it off as you're going. And, the student loan rates, the American Dental Education Association put out some data. I think the American Dental Association did as well, saying that, the average student loan debt is over $300,000. And, fortunately, just being higher income earners, that is a thing that's feasible to pay off. It takes a plan and it takes time. It takes, commitment to sticking to paying these things off on a regular schedule. But it's doable. That doesn't make it not stressful though.
Yeah.
So I think the main things with that are something that I admittedly did not understand as thoroughly as I probably should have, or I wish I had at the time. But just really understanding your student loans and the structure and your repayment options, so that if something happens and your income is affected, you're still able to navigate how you're going to pay these things off, and they're not going to, completely take over your life and be the reason why you're not enjoying your career or why you're not enjoying your personal life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a bunch of options to understand, and there's change, especially currently, they're changing constantly.
Right.
And that's another stress. It's like, I don't even know what to do with my federal student loans, because I don't understand. Like, there's no real clear guidance on what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. People haven't recertified income in forever, like ever since COVID. And now all of a sudden you got to recertify income, and now your income's doubled, let's say, and now you're paying a payment that seems overwhelming because your lifestyle's creeped up and you don't have that excess income. The other thing you have to be really concerned about is high interest student loans. So if you graduated a while ago, your student loans interest is probably pretty reasonable, depending on when you graduated. We had a low interest environment for a long time. Therefore, federal student loans were lower. If you've graduated more recently, the interest rates are higher, as interest rates have ticked up. So you can always have the option to explore refinance options to private loans, but especially if you have high interest rates. But I want to make sure you know that once you give up your federal student loans, you don't get the benefit of the payment plans, deferral, debunkment, maybe from, cross fingers, some forgiveness at some point. So you have to really be careful about that. But the other thing is, I recommend everybody sign up for the repayment plan that works best for you. And you can find great information on studentaid.gov about the different options. Again, it's changing a lot right now, so we won't get into those details, but just find the right option. And the other thing you can do is, even though you might have a low payment because you're certified on a lower income and your income increased, you can still pay more than your payment. But I also want to, put a disclaimer on that. You don't want to do that like in opposite or instead of savings or emergency funds. So I see a lot of people's like, I can't deal with this debt. Like debt just kills me. Like I'm going to put all my extra money into my debt until it's paid off. But then you gave up the comfort of an emergency fund and then also savings. So just like the automatic savings, do an automatic additional amount to your student loans and then adjust one or the other. So you're not giving up, let's say it takes 5 to 10 years to pay that off. Like you don't want to give up 5 to 10 years of savings, even if like, oh, I think I can make, 8 to 10% investing this money. My interest rate's only 7. Even if it's like, even if it's like more close, like the interest rate's closer, you still don't want to just give up the compounding because once you pay off extra student loans, they're not going to ask, you can't ask for that money back if you need it.
Right.
So you have to do both. And that's, one of the points. The next point, I don't know if you have any stories about people dealing with student loans or
not specifically. I mean, I think that kind of, lends to the point that I was making earlier that, it's not really a thing that people talk about very much. My discussions with my colleagues around student loans are somewhat limited to, they're incredibly annoying and it's way more money than I feel like I should be paying for this. It's kind of like the justification for loans being so high is the fact that your income potential is also high.
It's an investment.
It is. And I don't think that's unreasonable, to have to pay something in order to get that back. But, also there are people who went to graduate school in the 70s and 80s who had significantly lower rates of tuition, significantly lower, student loan amounts, and they were able to pay them off very quickly. I mean, and which makes sense to me. The lender is able to make a profit, and the person who's doing the borrowing is able to improve their life, their family's lives, their standing financially. So that makes sense to me. But it's kind of almost getting to the point where it becomes so much of a burden that people. It's not as clear cut of a good decision. People really have to weigh like, okay, I'm going to take on a significant amount of debt. Am I sure I'm going to be able to finish this graduate school? Am I sure I'm going to be able to get a job that's going to allow me to repay this money that I'm about to borrow? But I don't think it's a thing that is just talked about openly, because I think people would prefer to have the perception that they're on top of it, that they've got it all under control. They understand it. Their payments are automated. It's going to be paid off by, June of 2027, and I don't have to worry about it. When in fact, I don't think that's the case for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes to the next point, which is actually somewhat money related, but not. It's, prioritizing your well-being to avoid burnout. And I don't know if you've seen it a lot with dentists or medical professionals or any, high stress job, but I know it's coming more common, but it's one of these things that's not talked about that often.
Yeah. And, as it relates again to the subject of being high earners, I think it's kind of, I think in dentistry, just like in most fields, you have specific to healthcare. A lot of people are in it, for altruistic reasons. Like they enjoy helping people. They think that they can provide a service and, be a benefit to their community. And, in doing so, you can generate wealth. You can create a stable life for you and your family. But I do think that there's a certain subset of us, just like there are in most fields, where you are success driven, where obviously the patient care is supposed to come first, and it should come first. That should be the main thing that we're focusing on. But also challenging yourself to see, okay, well, this is what I was able to do this year. Let's see what we're able to build on and do next year. Are we going to think about expanding our practices into multiple offices? Are we going to think about bringing in, associates, more employees, more hygienists, whatever the case may be. And I think sometimes you kind of get tunnel vision, or you almost kind of get on like the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Exactly, where you understood why you were hustling so hard for this at one point, and you've just been doing it for a while, and it kind of becomes a habit, and you don't really take the time to step back and reassess, is this still what I want? Is this still what benefits me the most and benefits my family? Because it's also kind of the culture that we're raised in. The 5-day work week, and then you take 2 days to recover and enjoy yourself, which when you really think about it, people made that up. Yeah, people made that up. There's no reason that we have to do that. Like we could have set up a society where we work 2 or 3 days a week, and then people spend the rest of the time taking care of themselves, their families, each other, their communities. So it's a consequence, I think, of a lot of things, but I think the main point is mindfulness mindfulness with your finances, as they relate to I guess being a tool for creating the life that you want, like kind of the general subject of this, creating the opportunities and the environment that you want to live in with the resources that you have at hand, and not getting so focused on acquiring those resources that you forget why you're trying to use them.
Yeah. And I see that a lot. I see stress come up a lot, like very often. And I've started incorporating, positive psychology techniques into my understanding when I talk to clients, because you get into that hamster wheel of growth, success, increased income, and then it becomes like intense hours, just kind of roller coasters. Like you only can, most dentists, like you work longer and longer, harder and harder. Then you think, oh, well, now I need, let's say you're in a practice. No, now I need a second practice so I can increase my income by not having to work. I'm going to bring in associates. And it cascades, right? You keep going and going until there's like, stress, burnout, mental health. Mental health. I've seen it affect physical health, right? It's a hard profession. And one of the points, like, one of the surveys, a 2023 survey of the American Dental Association found that dentist burnout is a significant concern, with a substantial portion reporting high levels of stress related to work-life balance and financial pressures, right? So this is the whole point. Like we're bringing this up, dark side of high income, is because there's research out there that shows it happens. So what you need to think about is, and then there was a summary of the data. Let's see. Yeah, summary of the data you can find in the ADA Health Policy Institute in the Journal of American Dental Association. We'll put that link in there. A Medscape survey also in 2023 showed that the burnout rates of physicians, a similar high income, high stress profession, remain alarmingly high, often cited to exceed 50% across various specialties. And we'll put that link in the show notes now. So, as we're, getting close to the end, there's a couple points I want to mention to solve this problem. One of the first things that I emphasize the most is strategic delegation. And for associates, that's delegating life tasks, or you can even delegate staff tasks depending on your autonomy in that. But for practice owners, you can delegate the least productive things at work to your staff. You can trust but verify, right? But delegation to free up your time and energy to only focus on the most productive stuff can often be more profitable than just working more hours. And then also self-care, right? Just as you want to have patience on a schedule for the dental or health, hygiene, you need to create time. And this, I think the society is moving away from the 5-day work week to more, more balanced or flexible work schedule, because you still need to make time for exercise, hobbies, family, relaxation.
Right.
It's proven it's not a luxury. It's a necessity to sustain fulfillment and success. And you can integrate wellness into your plan, like factor in the expenses that support that well-being. Cleaning services, personal trainers, vacation that actually is a vacation where you actually relax and unwind. I think a lot of people go on vacations and they come back more tired than they went, which feels like every vacation I go on.
I was going to say, that's my vacations. I get somewhere and I'm like, all right, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
What are the things we're doing all day today?
Yeah. Because our minds won't let us sit down and relax.
Yeah. I went to Hawaii at the beginning of the year and I think I sat on the beach for a total of like 30 minutes.
Yeah. I went on a 3-week honeymoon, and I won't go into the details, but like we had every day scheduled. We only had about, other than the evenings, like 6 hours of downtime. Because we just want to pack in so much. It was Vietnam, Cambodia, and Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And then a friend's wedding connected at the end of the Hawaii trip. That was 3 weeks. But I'm like, I would have really liked to just at least one of those weeks sat and done nothing.
Yeah.
But like, I guess that's just that's our brains. But research shows that unless you can unwind and relax and really work on self, which you can't do if you just keep yourself busy. Like you have to really be internally. But as we wrap this up, to avoid the golden handcuffs or the dark side of high income and truly leverage that high income, you need to be proactive. Actively combat lifestyle creep by automated savings, strategically tackle your student loan debt, and prioritize your personal well-being, which don't forget about that. And Jackson, anything to add on in summary?
Yeah, I guess if I had anything to say in closing, just to kind of wrap everything up, it's very easy to fall into these patterns and these habits. And some of the things that we're talking about, I think, may seem obvious because you're aware of them. But it's really just being intentional and mindful and taking the steps towards addressing these things in a way that makes you feel more comfortable, in a way that removes a lot of this stress from your life, because it's really one of those things where you put it off for 3 years or however long because you're worried about doing it, or it's going to take so much effort or whatever, and then you do it and you're like, oh, that was pretty easy, and then from that point on it just makes your life better.
Yeah, getting into those habits are very important, and that's what we hope this podcast is going to do is help you give guidance and take small steps for improvement. But we want to thank everybody for listening to the Oral Wealth Prosperity and Practice podcast. We hope this episode today empowers you to take control of your financial journey. And then always click and follow.
Yes, please.
Like and subscribe.
Send us questions. Send us issues you're dealing with. Send us topics. We want to cover the things that you're interested in hearing about.
Yep. And we'll hope to have you on for the next or listening to the next podcast.
We'll see you next time. You'll be here next time. Yeah, you'll be here next time. We'll see you.
It's like we're talking to a studio audience.
All right.
And Johnny, come right up. You're the next contestant on Price is Right. Okay.
Good
on
to
that
see you
note,
guys.
talk soon.
Take care.